Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. My name is Ben Wynn. I manage community and events at Catalyst Software. And today I'm joined by Miranda. Miranda, do you mind doing a brief intro of yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Miranda Dukonsky. I'm the Vice President of Customer Success and People Operations at Swiftly.
You are also one of the leaders of the Customer Success Leadership Network, which obviously are an expert on networking, which brought us here today.
Yeah, I've been a member of the Customer Success Leadership Network for 2 years now. And when COVID hit, we all got together and we were trying to figure out what could we do to help serve our community. One of the thoughts we had was to start a Slack group. I went out and started the Slack group, and now we are over, I think, 1,240 members-ish in about a 3 or 4 month time frame.
Fantastic. So that brings us to our topic for today, which is networking, remote networking, I should say. So obviously networking has been a very important thing for all of us throughout our careers. And we've had the advantage of doing that during non-COVID times where we can meet each other at events and we can go out for coffees. So in a socially distanced world, building those relationships, finding those opportunities, building rapport with people is obviously something that's become much more difficult. Great to have you today because I want to dive deeper in with you about how people can still network remotely and some best practices for that. So how to avoid sending someone a LinkedIn invitation that will make them cringe and never talk to you again. To kick things off, how have you found it recently? Have you noticed an uptick? Have you had any particularly weird or strange new LinkedIn invitations or emails out of nowhere?
Yeah, not just recently, but I think always. I've had somebody ask me out on a date, and then if I,
Oh,
like opening line of, I would love to take you out for dinner and wine, but if you're not open to that, I do think I have this tool that would be great for
what?
you to check out, right?
That's a
It,
double
it,
pitch.
it's like, honestly, I know they didn't want to take me to dinner and wine, really. They were just trying to, have that like shock factor of,
Oh no, okay.
how do I get their attention? Recently, and this was very recently, somebody said that they love bananas, and they wrote their whole post around bananas, but they were selling some kind of marketing service or wanting my opinion on their marketing tools. I appreciate the funniness of these things, but they never get me to reply.
Yeah,
Because I know that it's gitchy, and I know that they're sending that not just to me, but they're just kind of like spraying and praying
right.
LinkedIn to try to get someone to, it's
That
like,
guy had a lot of dinner dates.
right, right. Yeah. It probably needed a part-time job to pay for the dinner and wine.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So yeah, I mean, we all probably get those really odd things where people are trying to be shocking and,
Yeah,
get your attention. But it doesn't always like work.
yeah,
I would say the majority of the time, it probably doesn't work. You probably get a good chuckle from behind the screen, but you never know that because they
yeah.
don't reply back to you.
True. Very good point.
The ones that I tend to reply to are folks that are genuinely looking for advice or
Mhm.
help. I will say though, my LinkedIn has become like my spam inbox.
No.
And it's sad because I love LinkedIn,
Hmm.
but now I'm always trying to constantly like navigate through, is this person trying to sell me something, or do they really want to network with me? Do they really want to, partner on things?
Hmm.
And it's really sad to me that that's where I am with it. But that is, and I think that's not just me. A lot of folks are finding that the selling on LinkedIn is a little like, it's kind of taken a life of its own on.
Hmm.
So where LinkedIn is a very powerful tool and a fantastic networking tool, it can also have that bad side of it, like the ugly side of it.
Definitely. So, I mean, I'm sure, so some still might come through on LinkedIn that are genuine or where they have done their research thoroughly and they are able to just fit that niche that you happen to be looking for. But going beyond LinkedIn, where else have you found to be, or where would you advise people to look if there's someone who has been maybe unsuccessfully using LinkedIn, just kind of hitting people up with the title VP Customer Success and not hearing anything back? Where would you suggest they look as alternatives?
Pre-COVID times, I would say go to meetups.
Yeah.
go to meetups, have those conversations, get exposure to folks. I am a believer that we will again one day be able to go to a meetup
Yep.
and have the free meat and cheese platter that's usually provided and get to know each other, right? But until then, I think places I would say to go are definitely attend virtual conferences, listen to webinars, and then reach out to the folks that gave those webinars and tell them what you learned about it or what you learned while you were on it, and what you liked, or ask questions. I know everybody's busy, but I do know that I personally try my best to reply when somebody reaches out and say, hey, I saw this,
Mhm.
I saw this podcast or listened to this podcast you did. I really like
Yeah.
this point. I at least will reply, thank you, let's connect.
Yeah.
Slack communities are starting to become more and more of a thing.
Definitely.
Really love it. The Customer Success Leadership Network is also doing mentorship hours. That's another great way to get exposure to people that you normally wouldn't. Even outside of your, small area, like I'm in the San Francisco area, I'm now meeting people all over the world that wouldn't have been able to come to my meetups, right?
Right. It's true.
So those
It's a
are
good silver
all,
lining.
it's a great silver lining, right? A little anecdote, I saw somebody post on my Facebook that they joined a Zoom networking event with some famous musician that they loved and were able to ask them questions,
Oh,
right?
that's so cool.
So these
Yeah.
kinds of things are starting to come out now.
Hmm.
And I think this is going to be like our next wave of how we network and how we get to meet people,
Hmm.
whether while it's still via Zoom or video conferencing, it's networking, it's building relationships.
Yeah, and I think we're going to get better at it too. I think a lot of us were pretty rusty at the start of it to try to have those kinds of calls or conversations and get to know someone purely through a computer screen. But
Yeah.
I feel like we've gotten better, or we've just gotten more accustomed to it. What's your reaction to the phrase "picking your brain"?
It depends. I'll look at, their profile, and if they're in business development or in sales, sometimes I will disregard it. But if it's somebody in customer success or a fellow, customer success leader, I'll hop on and talk to them. Yeah, I mean, it really depends. I
Hmm.
I think there's a better way to approach people. So
Hmm.
if that's what you're going to say, I want to pick your
Yeah.
brain,
Yeah.
great. But maybe saying I have these three things that I'm trying to think through. I think that you could potentially add some insights. Would you have 10 minutes you can spare?
Yep.
Right. One
Love
of the
that.
things I hate is when somebody sends me an email saying, I want to pick your brain. Is Tuesday at 1 p.m. okay for you?
Mm.
I know that they're trying to make it convenient for me because they've proposed a time,
Hmm.
but it just feels very presumptuous
Yes.
rather than ingratiating yourself to say, do you have time available? Here's the time I actually want.
Right.
I don't know why. There's just something about it that just sits bad with me.
Yep.
At least let me first say yes or no, and
Yeah.
then we can figure out the time.
I think that's a great point. What are some other ways? I mean, let's say if someone is job seeking right now, obviously there's still a ton of job seekers. If someone's looking for advice on job seeking, or they're looking for good resources, what's the best way that they can reach out to, or that you would recommend they reach out to someone to ask for help? Because sometimes it's hard to ask for help, especially from someone that you don't know really well.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you the wrong way, and then we can talk about the right way.
It's a good
Uh,
method.
Yeah, so right now I have an opening, and I have people messaging me left and right on LinkedIn and Slack. It's okay to send me a message, but don't send me 3 messages on LinkedIn, 2 or 3 on Slack, then find my email address and email me,
Oh no.
because this is happening. It's happening, and I get it. I like the human side of me. I understand.
Hmm.
Like, there is a high unemployment rate. If there is a job posting, there's a lot of competition to get
Hmm.
that job. And it's scary times. I understand that. But annoying the hiring manager is not going to help. You have to assume that that hiring manager or the representative you're messaging is incredibly busy and they have a lot of candidates they're trying to get through. It's okay to respectfully message them once and say, hey, I applied. I just really love your company because of blah, blah, blah. Really passionate about the industry because of blah, blah, blah. And then I really would like to be, considered for a phone conversation to see if there's a mutual fit. Move on. Right now I have someone who is doing just what I said and now has just reached out to one of my team members
Oh,
in the
wow.
same way, saying I've reached out to Miranda and I haven't heard back. So don't do that. That's just overly aggressive.
Mhm.
And it could potentially burn your chance to get that in.
Yep.
Now, that being said, it is okay. Do reach out. Do set up your, this is my LinkedIn profile. This is who I am. Wanted to ping you here on LinkedIn because, my LinkedIn profile speaks to a lot about who I am and what I represent. Really excited to see you or hear from you in the future. Boom. If I'm not a fit for this, I would love it if you could maybe direct me somewhere that may be hiring, right?
Right.
Um, don't burn bridges. Like,
Yeah.
leave it open because not everyone's going to be a fit for that one role.
Yep.
So just keep the door open for that. Also, tools like Slack and things like that are fantastic, but don't abuse it. Once again,
Yep.
don't abuse it. I'm incredibly honored and humbled that I am connected with so many awesome people in LinkedIn and in the Slack group that I've created.
Mhm.
And if I'm going to reach out, I'm going to do it seldom
Mhm.
enough to where if I'm reaching out, it's for something important.
Right.
Because I know that, everybody's busy.
Mhm.
So that would be my advice to candidates. Like, don't abuse that privilege
Definitely.
of having that direct connection.
It's you have a limited number of shots, right, before that bridge is burned. So,
Yeah.
once, twice, people are cool, and then I think once you get north of 3 or 4, it's that awareness that should be kicking in, and then people need to be aware of that. And there's a reason that you're not hearing back.
Well, and the reason could be the person is busy,
Yep.
right? It's not personal. It's just that they're busy.
Mhm.
And they haven't gotten to your resume yet,
Yep.
right? But now
Absolutely.
when they get to your resume, they're definitely going to know who you are, and it might not
Right.
be for good reasons, right?
Right.
So just be careful about that.
Definitely.
I would say lastly, a great way to think about it if you're a candidate is think about your public persona.
Mhm.
If you're trying to get into a company, or you're trying to break into another industry, uh, think about the story your LinkedIn profile tells about you.
Mhm.
Especially when you're not able to go on site and, get that face-to-face time with people. Think about the story that your LinkedIn profile tells about you. Does it tell the story that you want it to? Are you showing potential hiring managers or folks that you would be networking with the best of you? Are you putting content out there? Are you, sharing others' work, things that you find interesting, right?
Right.
Just interact with people and build out that LinkedIn profile. I think that's incredibly helpful when both networking and looking for your next role.
Awesome. Those are all fantastic pieces of advice. What about for people who are networking more for, let's say you want to have some problem solved at work or something like that, or you want some more advice on how to maybe assess a customer success software, or, hire, what to look for in your new hires and that sort of thing. Again, I think a lot of people in CS are actually quite good at being emotionally intelligent, and we're always thinking about how other people are going to receive things. So sometimes that can make us cautious to reach out to ask for help because we don't want to be in a position and everyone's busy right now.
I mean, if you're looking for advice, one of the great things about customer success professionals is they love to talk.
Clearly.
They love to
Clearly.
give advice.
Yeah.
Yes, clearly. So where I usually start is I would just do a LinkedIn post and say, have some advice that I'm looking for on X, Y, and Z, or go into a Slack group and ask for advice in a Slack group. And you know what? People like jump all over that. They
Yeah.
jump all over the opportunity. Now, if you're more private and you have advice maybe on something confidential or strategic,
Mhm.
um, feel free to reach out to folks like myself or others if you have a problem, but be okay with them not having time for that, and start out with that. Start out with, I know you're busy and I completely understand if you don't have time to help me with this problem, but if you do, I would be very appreciative. Here's my problem. And if you don't have time, do you know somebody that I could possibly talk to?
Fantastic. I think we covered a lot there. Is there any final parting words of wisdom you'd like to share
Now,
with the world?
just, I want everybody just to kind of keep their head up and keep
Yeah.
their chin up. I know that this is a tough time, but really tap into your network, build a network, put yourself out there, be helpful. I wrote a post about this yesterday, but be kind,
Yeah.
so I
Definitely.
think it's just a really important time right now.
Yeah.
Everybody's struggling one way or another, whether it's with employment or being stuck in our homes for months on end.
Yeah.
So I think it's just having that extra level of empathy, but also having a sense of humor. So
Definitely. I love that. And I think one of the important things you touched there, touched on there, well, all of them are, but being helpful to others, I think is huge. And I think that goes not only for, executives like yourself, but if you're someone who's job hunting or you're looking for help for yourself, the best way to get it is to give it and put that out into the world, into the space. See if you can offer your help to other people or to organizations and just volunteer your time or your energy for something. And just even putting that energy out, but putting something into the community will, I think, bring a lot back.
absolutely, 100%.
Awesome. Well, Miranda, thank you so much for your time. Everyone should check out the Customer Success Leadership Network. It's fantastic.
Yes.
And hopefully we can chat again soon.
Thank you so much, Ben. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.